Cool. All right, today is July 7th because we did this podcast originally on July, I think what?
4th.
Yeah, the 4th. But due to technical difficulties and we had some problems, we're redoing this. So today is July 7th, which is off our usual Friday. But we're sticking to the Friday as much as possible. But you're getting this today, like I said, because we had a couple of problems and we're having to redo it. So it is podcast 144. And this is the OBBBA Act, which would be the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. I'm not sure.
I don't know why it wants to keep doing that.
I don't know either. But this is Trump's bill that he passed and signed into law on the 4th of July.
Yep.
And so we kind of wanted to break it down. And, of course, being a tax expert for 42 years, I'm sort of inclined to look at the tax breaks first. Leslie, on the other hand, has been looking at a lot of the other stuff. And so between the two of us, we might be able to actually come up with something that is, I don't know, I hate to use the word comprehensive, but... Okay.
I think digestible.
Digestible is better, yeah. Because anytime a politician says comprehensible, I just cringe because it's like a buzzword that means nothing. It has to be comprehensive. Oh yeah, and that means what? Nothing.
Right.
So we want to break it down so we can at least have some understanding. 900 pages, we're not going to see it all. We're not going to explain it all. We're not even going to get close to that. It's going to take a little time to digest all of this, but we want to hit some of the highlights. So, of course, we went to Grok. Before we start, it's podcast 144. You're listening to Sovereign Minds.
The podcast.
It's July 7th, 2025. We're down here in Mountaintop Media at the epicenter of freedom. And so let's go right into it. So, the One Big Beautiful Bill is a comprehensive, see there it is, the word. We should look up comprehensive. I think it means all-encompassing or...
What we need to do is we need to create a board game that's like propaganda word bingo for politics.
Propaganda Yahtzee.
And then we could just sit in board meetings and watching State of the Union addresses and, Congress, and we can just play bingo.
If you spell buzzwords that are on the left side of the aisle, you get bonked. Or if they're interchangeable between left and right, maybe you get two bonks. I don't know. But anyway, so this was passed on July 4th, as we said, and it has a wide range of tax and spending policies central to Trump's second term agenda. So we started getting a breakdown. Obviously, this is Grok, and so, permanent extension of the 2017 tax cuts. I think Trump was put in a box here. I don't think he had any choice but to pass something, because to not pass anything was to actually basically let the economy die, in my opinion, because if it was how many $1 trillion tax increase, $4 trillion tax increase automatically, boom, boom. So in order to get this thing done, you gotta, I don't know, I'd like to say grease a few palms, but I'm not sure any palms were greased.
It doesn't actually look like there were that many catches in it.
Right.
Like everything that politicians do, there's something somewhere that you're not going to like. But, Doug LaMalfa talked about it, and he said, if we don't do this, everything from 2017 goes away, right, and we have Biden's Build Back Better plan.
Which would, by the way, it would destroy the economy. And the only thing that saved the economy in 2017 was this bill, okay, because of the provisions and the depreciation and so forth.
Right.
So my big problem with it is that it's projected, and again, this is projections by the what is it, the CBC or whatever it is, you know what I'm talking about,
right?
The Office of Projections, whatever it is. It'll come to me in a second, but then it's going to go up between 2.3 and
between 2.3 and 5 for the debt ceiling, increasing the debt.
It's not the debt ceiling; it's the actual debt.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the debt ceiling right now is at like 36. So they have to increase the debt ceiling, which was in the provision. Right. Otherwise, you can't borrow the money from Beelzebub and the Fed, and we'll talk more about that. I'm actually going to be doing a little more on that later on. But if you don't raise the debt ceiling, then you can't borrow the money to fund the bill, and so you can't get it passed, blah, blah, blah. I don't like the fact that they keep kicking the can down the road, and a lot of people are having a problem with that, but we're so far down the road now, if we don't kick the can a few more times, it's not going to matter anyway. So you got to do something.
Very true.
And if they can reverse everything, grow their way out of it, I'm not sure that's possible unless we go to a sound money plan, but I'm seeing Trump already starting to attack the head of the Fed, Jerome Powell. All right, so with that said, extends lower income tax rates that we had before. They stay, the same as far as the different brackets on the earnings and so forth. A state gift exemption permanently increased to 15 million, which is kind of interesting, and that's a whole nother science in itself. How to gift without paying a tax. Just because you have a gift tax form to file doesn't mean you're going to pay a gift tax. You can use a lifetime exemption. We won't want to get too down in the weeds with that one, but enough to say that that's a good thing, and that doesn't help the rich. That helps the small middle class as well.
Right.
Even if you don't have 15 million, you can still pass gifts on tax-free to your heirs if you know how to do it. The SALT one, I thought this one was very interesting.
Right, and the first time we looked it up, it wasn't in here, so I can delete that tab. But now it's in our original ask. So Grok has improved their answer since we last recorded.
Grok can be taught. So, let's hope, I don't know, there's probably some evil thing going on. It's teaching itself now, oh no. So, what it does is, it used to be that when you file a Schedule A, it capped your Schedule A deduction for state and local taxes at $10,000, which means, let's say if your Schedule A itemized deductions was $30,000, but you had $40,000 in state and local taxes, you would only get $30,000 because they take the 10, and you had $30,000 more in deductions that you just lost that would lower your tax liability on your itemizations.
Right.
So, that's not a big earner thing. That's going to help everybody who pays, and that if you're making $120,000 a year, for example, you're paying SDI, you're paying state taxes, you're paying real estate taxes, and that easily goes over the $10,000 mark in most cases.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and it phases down for incomes above 500,000. So it's not giving anything extra. And if you're making more than 500,000, you're busting your butt and doing something.
Well, and then, that's a conversation we can have as well, as far as, remember nobody's going to pay a tax who makes under 450,000. I think it was Obama said that.
Yeah.
And then it was 250,000, and then 150,000. So what happens is, it's all smoke and mirrors usually, because you have to attack the rich while you're taxing everyone, and that's been the grift from day one. 1913, the original tax return. If you look it up on a PDF form, you can type it in 1913 income tax return. It'll come up. It says that they were taxing 1 to 6% on anybody making $20,000 to $500,000. How many people were making $20,000? And back then, $20,000 was a lot more money. So most people were not in that bracket, so they touted it as a rich tax. And now what has happened is we've gradually, through inflation, increased everybody into the brackets.
Right.
And then they raise all the brackets. So it's a grift. And so temporary tax deductions expire in 2028, Trump's term. I'd like to see them made permanently. And I saw J.D. Vance talk about it. He said that they wanted to do it just for Trump's term, and then the next administration would make their own decisions on it. So,
and when you look at some of these, they're things that after Trump said them during his campaign, Kamala said it during hers. So they should be permanent if she's being truthful or their side.
They're not being truthful ever, because they said this whole bill was to, this whole time, the rhetoric has been to help the super rich. Have we gone across the one thing here that's helping the super rich yet?
Not one.
Not one. See, so they lie about everything. And I was just talking to somebody over lunch. I'm not going to mention his name. He knows who he is. All I want is the truth. I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. Give me the freaking truth.
Right.
Okay? If the bill's bad, I want to know the bad provisions. If the bill's good, I want to know the good provisions. I don't want a bunch of rhetoric so that you can brainwash people or screw with their minds mentally so that they don't understand what's actually happening.
Right. Well, and because, I mean, I agree with you. I just want to know all sides of it. I sat through watching Hakeem Jeffries' speech.
I'm sorry.
And I got about 5.5 hours into it. And what I realized is his 8-hour and 46-minute speech could have been done in 1 hour and 42 minutes because he repeats everything 5 times.
They all do it. And we've all seen the news reels where they put like 30, 40, 50 of them and they're all saying the exact same thing. That's because they are.
Right.
It is a hive mind. Now we've got another fire going on, screen fire, but let me turn this thing off. It's like that happened the last time too. It's like unbelievable.
Well, and that's the thing. So he would say, you are removing food from the mouths of young people, old people, and the homeless. You are removing food from the mouths of young people, old people, and our veterans. You are removing, and he would say it literally 5 times before he would get to his point. Because when you are indoctrinating a nation, when you are wanting to make sure this is what mainstream media picks up on, you have to say it over and over and over. And then the people who sit there in their homes spoon feeding the media are like, oh, I think I heard that before. Yeah, you did when he said it 30 seconds ago.
It's true. We're still here. It's the big lie. It's what Goebbels said back in the day. I'm not comparing anybody to anything, but it's better, it's actually easier to swallow a big lie told to you over and over and over again than a little lie. Because the big lie, repetitively told, people start to just go along with the program and it becomes the hive mind. So, you're absolutely spot on how you sat for the 5 hours of Hakeem Jeffries. I'll give you a kudos and maybe we'll give you a cupcake at the end of the day. You deserve something sweet. Okay, so senior deduction. So we're back to overtime. No taxes on tips. Overtime pay deduction. So they give you a phase out over $150,000. So overtime compensation is now deductible. So up to $150,000. That's huge. And who's that? Who's that helping?
The working class.
The working class. Overtime pay deduction, and then the next is the auto loan interest deduction. Interest on U.S. assembled cars. $10,000 is deductible. Well, the interest on cars up to $10,000 is going to help people who are filing Schedule A's.
Right.
And itemized deductions, and that goes along with the SOL and the interest. And so you're helping.
And it excludes campers and RVs. So we're excluding the rich people.
I wish they would put the campers and RVs back in. Because I think that if you have a camper and RV, you shouldn't pay any tax on the interest. So, with the senior deduction, I looked this up. It's not per person if you're over 65 and married. It's they give you one deduction for the couple, and then you get one deduction if you're single over 65. They just phase them out at different places and increase the percentages based on their other income as well.
Right.
So, child tax credit increased from increased to $2,200 per child. I think it was $2,000.
I think it was $2,000.
Yeah, so a couple $100. But that helped because credits are always better than deductions because credits are 1-for-1 against the tax, where deductions don't give you the 1-for-1 against the tax, so it's not as good a bang for your buck.
Right.
Let's see. Trump accounts introduced tax deferred accounts for parents to save for their children. Expired. I have to look into that. So what is that? Tax deferred accounts for parents. I have to look that up. It's something new.
It's like a child savings account, and it's something that you can actually, from what I was reading, you can sign up for it when you're having your child as like part of the they give you a billion things to go through when you're signing up for Social Security and all of that. It doesn't make sense to end, and I think they're thinking, there's going to be enough people investing into this in the next 3 years that they're going to keep it going.
Maybe.
But it's like a child savings account, those high interest savings.
There's different savings accounts now, like health savings account, school savings account, a 529 plan, and so forth. So I'll have to look into this and see. I don't really see it as a big benefit. Just from the first perspective, maybe it puts more money back in the market, and that might be
Right.
what they're looking for.
Well, and it's one of those things like you and I were talking about before this is, there's things you can do to set yourself up for success in the future.
Right.
It's just taking the time and putting in the money to do it. It's one more investment available.
Being a little mindful about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, research and development deductions permanently allows immediate deduction for R&E, which is research
Experimentation.
It's experiment because it's usually R&D. Not
Yeah.
R&E. So business receipts gross 30 million or less can apply this for so that does help some of the bigger business, no question about it.
Right.
Which is great, and that's not necessarily a bigger business. At 31 million of gross receipts is not necessarily that much, because let's say that you're manufacturing something for 31 million in gross receipts, but it costs you 30 million of parts and materials and labor to produce it.
Right.
So,
Well, and did you see that they announced this? Manufacturers can claim 100% deduction for new property used in manufacturing, producing, and refining. And there's already companies saying they're coming back from China. GE is coming back.
right.
And other companies are coming back too.
And that's what.
And that's all they needed.
That's the incentive, and the incentive is to get them to start doing their stuff on shore in America and creating jobs there. And we're starting to see that.
And then they're going to stimulate billions of dollars back into the economy.
Yeah, that's a good thing for everybody. That's
Yep.
not necessarily. See, the whole idea of attacking the rich is stupid, because if that's why they have monopoly laws, so that you don't get somebody controlling one segment of the population enough to skew the market. But at the same time, people that work and create businesses create jobs and all of the things that go with it, better services, more products for everybody. And so to stifle that is to stifle your standard of living.
Right. Well, and they're always people who are rich and who have taken the time and built this huge empire are going to be smart enough to figure it out. Trump was smart enough to figure it out before he was able to write any tax laws.
Well,
and he was able to figure out the loopholes and work things.
It's like the old thing with the debate. Yeah, you don't pay any taxes. And he says, yeah, because I'm smart. And he says, and all your friends are doing exactly the same thing because you guys write the law. So the real deal is that keeps the economy going. And my big problem is that everybody should be made available to understand this information.
Right.
So we're all free in the same boat, not somebody has information that nobody else has because they don't have the proper accountants or the legal team to show them how to get through the law.
Like the fact that none of us are as good at insider trading as Nancy Pelosi, and never having a bad trade deal.
Having inside information is very helpful in that. So going business interest limitation. This is part of that. That's what they were talking about with that. At the debate, the business interest on 163 to compute adjusted taxable income without regard to depreciation, amortization, depletion. So it's an interesting thing that they're doing. It increases business interest deduction. I think that's great. You got to have
Right.
it. So it also promotes borrowing money and buying things as well. So. Bonus depreciation, I think this is one of the biggest provisions in the bill. I love this. I think that if they had not extended that would have been a huge problem. This buys equipment across the board. I know from personal experience, this has helped more small business people than any other deduction that I've seen since it has been around with depreciation. It's huge. When you understand how to use it, it's freaking huge. The caveat to that is California doesn't like Trump, so they didn't go along with this, and you can only deduct $25,000 on equipment in California. So I've seen people paying zero federal tax while they pay a huge state tax in California,
Which is And it's ridiculous because oftentimes it's California that's forcing people to get the new equipment with their, green energy, whatevers.
There's a credit, but I think they're getting rid of the credit on.
Right, but the credit's not the same as being able to write off all of it.
True. It is completely different. And in the meantime, if you want to fund a high-speed railway to nowhere, that's a $123 billion big dig debacle.
Right.
Send your money to Gavin. He'll take care of it for you.
Or we passed the thing to do all of the redo and rebuild all of the dams, the water resource things.
Yeah.
We passed that. There was supposed to be 17 of them restored or rebuilt, and all of that money went poof be gone, and there was not a single dam built or refurbished.
It's like the old Amos and Andy. This hand gives it to you, and this hand takes it away.
Yeah.
So we're tearing down the dam so we can rebuild another one. In the meantime, we're causing a problem that we have to fix with your money.
Right.
So sneaky. All right. So tax loan, student loan tax break. I think they're seeing that there's a huge problem. You've got these student loans out there. You can't get rid of them. I only know one guy that's ever gotten rid of them, and that was through a medical issue. He had a real bad medical problem, and he couldn't work. So he was able to get rid of the amount that was owed. But it is a problem because you can't file bankruptcy. You can't do anything on student loans. I think that's wrong. But at the same time, you got to be accountable, know what you're getting into, and not be stupid about borrowing money so you can get a degree in climate change, social justice.
Well, and the thing about this that I like, so Biden wanted to do the whole, we're going to use all of the tax dollars to take away all of your student debt, and we're going to put that on the everyday taxpayer, and you have no incentive to get out and do anything. You can sit in your mom's basement and become an influencer and take your time with your college degree, where this has a provision allowing up to $5,250 of employee compensation to be tax-free. So you get your degree, then you go and get a job in the field that you got a degree in, and then you can use some of your employee compensation to tax-free pay off your debt. It's a win-win. It incentivizes them to go get a job.
They needed something, and this is a start, I think. And I agree with you. I think that because it was ridiculous the way that it was before. And then Biden goes, oh yeah, we're going to forgive all the debt, and the Supreme Court says no, you can't do that. Well, we're going to do it anyway. And then the next thing you know, the left is going, it's the end of democracy. Oh wait a minute, no, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
These people are, I digress. Moving on. I don't want to pound the table. Okay. So
employee retention credit.
Yeah, that's another one. Bars the IRS from issuing refunds. That whole thing was a debacle. That whole thing that they did. I know people. They got the employee retention credits. They got this, and then they actually changed the tax law. Like 30 times in a 4-month period. First you could do it, then you could deduct it, then you couldn't, and then it was taxable, then it wasn't, and so I kept telling people, don't do this, because would you enter into a contract with another party where they could change the contract at will anytime they want, change the provisions of the contract, and do anything they want in the contract without your consent, and that's a good deal, right? No matter what. That's what they did.
Yeah.
And people were, because of the COVID thing, oh, we need the money. We got to keep our business afloat.
Right.
So, it's funny, even locally, some people's friends got the money that wasn't taxable, and other people got the money that was taxable. This
is where we just got to hope that karma kicks in some of those people who misused it. And then,
some people needed it.
Some people needed it, but we had local people here who misused it and then refused to offer health insurance to their employees and everything else.
Is there a problem with the government giving away money that they don't have to somebody who didn't earn it? I don't know, maybe. And then changing the contract at will so that they can pick and choose the winners.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't know. That's so
karma can do us all a favor. Well, here we get to get into the fun stuff. Right, this is the stuff that they were screaming from the rooftops is evil.
We can talk about the change in the letters.
Yeah.
Because the first time we did this, we accidentally typed, I'm going to say we.
I accidentally typed booba.
She typed BOOBA. And I was like.
Me and my fat fingers.
I was like, What act is this?
Well, it's that whole, I'm super mad that Medicaid won't pay for my boob job.
So it's the big, beautiful. Never mind. Act. Big beautiful bill act.
Yeah.
So, spending cuts. This is another one. The OBBBA, we'll call it OBBBA, includes significant spending cuts and increases with a focus on reducing social programs and funding and boosting defense and border security. I think it has to be done. You are spending stuff. Let's say California and the Medi-Cal. Mm-hmm. Let's give Medi-Cal to everybody in the world. That's what they did. That's what they said. Anybody who's not a California citizen or an American citizen, if you show up here, you get free medical care.
Right.
Gee, that's not going to break anybody. That's not going to break the bank, is it?
Well, and that's what Hakeem Jeffries was screaming from the rooftops is medical care is not a luxury. It is a right. And it's a right that everybody should be given. And I disagree. Then he's saying that this bill is dangerous because it rips out and tears out Obamacare.
Good.
And it's going to damage all the insurances. No, giving free insurance to everybody, closing the market, making it to where your private insurance is no longer worth anything because they can overbill through Medicaid, and then they never get that money because you get an IOU from the government, and we all know that they spend their money well, right? And so Obamacare made a complete shit show out of insurance.
So if we did a survey, did you like your health care before? Do you like it now?
Right.
Did you keep your doctor? Can we agree that the healthcare system got worse or better?
Right. And everybody is going to tell you it got worse.
Yeah, because it did get worse because you can't have the government in charge of anything. And a right is not... Okay, should everybody in the world have good health care? Yeah, I think they should. Is that a right? That's like saying everybody has a right to food. Well, what happens if nobody grows any? Does the right still maintain that everybody has a right? It's like, no, you have the right to life,
liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
It used to say property.
Right.
Okay, in the first 6 drafts, I think. And they decided the pursuit of happiness. So rights that are enshrined are rights that are given by God for a reason because then God can take them away. But God doesn't say that you have a right to food. God says if you don't work, you're going to not eat.
Right. Well, and our founding fathers, they were watching as we were developing our independence and we were developing what governmental system we were using. They were also watching as France did the same thing. Right. France was declaring independence, and France was going through the socialist model of everybody gets everything and it's free and happy and party. And they watched that fail as they're writing it out.
How it ended?
It ended with the fact that when you make nobody go to work, or when you make everybody get free, the people who are working for the stuff don't want to work anymore because they don't want to give free to the people not working.
Completely stifles production. It's like I said, you don't have the right to food if nobody's farming it, because what happens is if nobody works and nobody produces food, everybody starves, and that goes the same for healthcare or any other commodity or service. But how the French Revolution ended is a ton of people got their heads cut off. They all went to the guillotine, even the guy that was in charge.
Right.
So it doesn't end well that way.
Right.
And everybody starves, by the way, too.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how we got off. But so Medi-Cal and Medicare is not.
Well, just saying it's not a right. That's how we got there. Yeah.
But we want the best that we can. And do I want everybody to have health care? Sure. But to say it's a right means that you have to steal from somebody else to provide the right to somebody else.
Right.
You have to take from somebody else and give it to somebody. In other words, who's going to pay for it? Who's going to work for it? How does it get there? What you're also doing is saying we can enslave all the doctors because now they have to provide the healthcare service for free, because if everybody in the world shows up at the door and there's only so many healthcare providers, they're going to be working their butts off for basically nothing.
Right. Well, and the thing is, by putting these restrictions on Medicaid, you are improving the healthcare, because like you said, if we have every illegal immigrant is able to come in and use it, and they're using it. I mean, I have a daughter with a health issue where we end up having to go to the hospital. It happens. I don't love it. I try not to. But when we have to go, we're there for a legitimate issue. And you've got people coming in for a stubbed toe and a sore thumb because they use the hospital and the ER as a walk-in because the walk-ins are jammed packed. And so when you're offering free health care for everybody, it floods the system. Right. Where if we take it and we make it free health care for those who need it, if you are elderly, you still have your health care. If you are disabled, you qualified. You have the stuff to qualify it. When they say that they're going to go back and look at new eligibility certification, they are taking people and having them go in and say, oh, this person has the documentation that they lost their leg and can't work.
I think the crux of the matter is this is about waste, fraud, and abuse. Mm-hmm. And we need to take care of American citizens first. And it's like Doge. Was there any waste, fraud, and abuse? They found so much of it, and it was incredible.
Right.
They can't even wrap our minds around it. So, waste, fraud, and abuse. And you have to ask yourself: the Democrats are against cutting these programs. They're not against waste, fraud, and abuse. They don't care if there's waste, fraud, and abuse, as long as there's all this funding is being controlled by them, because they don't care if you get real health care. What they care about is these fundings going to the people that are in the government, working for everybody, and then they're dependent on the government. They're dependent on the government to give them their income, their health care, everything. So they become vassals of the people that are funding all this. You've got to get people independent of these programs, that especially the ones that aren't eligible in the first place, that should be working.
Right. If we keep them fat, healthy, or fat, not healthy, fat, happy, and entertained, they'll never go looking elsewhere.
Bread and circuses, like Wally the cartoon. They're all on the ship and they're all sitting around getting fat. And
exactly. Wally the cartoon is exactly it. Yeah. Because they will never look to vote elsewhere.
Right.
They will keep the people who are going to tell them and fearmonger them, if you vote against this or if you vote for Orange Man, you're all going to die because you're going to lose your health care, you're going to lose your SNAP, you're going to lose. The fact of the matter is they're wanting you to, if you are able-bodied, work 80 hours a month. Some of us work 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
They're wanting you to work 80 hours a month if you can.
It's not that much to have.
And they want you to be a legal citizen.
So the Democrats are against this because
it attacks their voter base.
Well, and they say that you must be for waste, fraud, and abuse.
Right.
And it's even deeper, and we'll get into that. I've actually got General Flynn's book coming.
Pardon of Innocence.
Yeah,
I know I have the autograph copy coming.
A segment on that at some point too, but. All right, so getting back to SNAP, food stamps, the same thing.
It's the same.
Vulnerable groups, blah, blah, blah. Clean energy credits, phases out most of the clean energy credits because what they're doing is they're picking winners and losers. The same thing on green deals. How many, all this green energy, all these credits, all this stuff, in California, how's it working out?
Right.
My solar energy company went bankrupt, went under. They can't service anything, and so it's starting to fall apart, just like Solyndra.
You have a fancy rooftop ornament or a fancy shade structure?
It's a shade structure. So it actually works, but then you can't get it fixed by the guys who are supposed to be fixing it, and they still want their payments. So
right.
Spending increases. All right. Defense spending, we could talk about that. The Golden Dome, I don't know. Some of the stuff I'm not in total agreement with. Border security, I'm in total agreement with. And again, I don't mind spending money on increased defense as long as they're using it for defense and not buying hammers for $30 a nail, or a handle. So, border security. They proved they could end that so quick. I was talking to a guy today who was actually on border security down in Arizona, and he said, agreed with me, they can stop the border security just like that. All you got to do is, I know what I would have done. I would have put machine guns up across and down the line and said, anybody crosses, we're going to mow you down. Guess what? It would have stopped just like that. You can control your border. Now that might be a little over the top. But we saw how fast Trump was able to get the border under control because they wanted to get the border under control, and the Biden administration didn't. They were letting them through on purpose. There's no other explanation. So we got more border security. Excuse me. Veterans Affairs, 22% boost. I think we ought to take care of our veterans. And if you get rid of all this other waste, fraud, and abuse, maybe we can take care of our own guys.
Right. And when they're screaming that you're going to lose funding for the elderly, for our veterans, for our children, so far, everything that we've seen will provide better health care to our veterans, our children, and our elderly. Because if they are not overwhelmed by a bunch of people who are never going to contribute to society, who are never going to pour into our infrastructure, then you get better service. You get better quality health care.
Yeah, it seems pretty reasonable to me. So, raises the debt ceiling. I don't agree with that because here's one thing I do agree with Elon Musk about. They should have implemented all the Doge cuts. Mm-hmm. They should have cut it to the bone. I don't think we need a debt ceiling raise if we do what needs to be done.
Right.
And they need to go after the Fed and lower the interest rates or get rid of the Fed entirely. And that's happened before, like 5 times in the country. Andrew Jackson ran on it. No bank got rid of the United States Bank. It can be done. And we're already starting to see Trump talking to Jerome. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not too optimistic on that at this point.
Well, and I think they were still on the same page with that. I think they still are on the same page of trim the fat. Right. I think, one, it was some sort of media stunt to get attention diverted while other things happen. Right. Or 2, like we said before, when you're cutting these green new energy deals and all of this, it's wasteful spending. Yeah. It's everything that Elon says he's against in Doge. However, this one affects him personally.
Well, and I've been doing a little homework on Elon. You know, he used to be a Democrat. He voted for Hillary, voted for Obama. I'm not sold on Elon Musk as being the paragon of virtue.
He's an opportunist.
I agree with that to a degree. I also think he's pretty smart and a businessman, and they should cut all this crap out. And that would then free up the money. But they got to tackle the Fed at some point. It's going to have to happen. Otherwise, it's just going to get worse. I don't like the $5 trillion debt ceiling increase. But then again, at the same time, they had to do something. They had a short amount of time to do it. They had to get something accomplished. Or see, the Democrats, they want to destroy the country. They want this thing to fold. They want this experiment to be ended so that they can step in and the Marxist phoenix rises out of the ashes. That's what their game plan is. And that's why the voters, all of it. So, Pell Grants, student loan changes. I haven't gone over this as much as I need to.
I got into some of it because I am going back to school because, buku amounts of time on my plate. However, I'm halfway through a degree and figured why not finish it. So I've looked into this a little bit. Basically, what it's doing is the same thing as everything else. They're putting restrictions on it. If you are going to be sitting there getting a check from the government each month for going to college, you have to have a minimum amount of credits. Right. You have to be progressing at a certain rate. You cannot just take the money.
I'm not sure I want to send anybody to college anymore. The way colleges are being run.
But also, if you look at it, it puts borrowing limits on it. Right. So you're not going to have somebody who stays in college and becomes a career student and gets 6 degrees and does nothing with it. They're putting limits. This is what a normal degree would cost. This is your lifetime limit. If you want to exceed that, you got to go do it on your own.
Yeah, they get a degree in bong.
Underwater basket weaving.
There you go. Perfect.
That's what our teachers always told us to go for.
They might end up taking a course at the local prison for remedial license plate manufacturing.
Right.
After they get out. So, rollback on clean energy, repeals most of the IRA clean energy provisions, including electric vehicle tax, methane tax, greenhouse reduction fund. I think all that's good. Fossil fuel promotions. Yeah, we need to get back to energy independence until they come up with a better solution, which they will at some point, and they're pretty close. You look at some of the different technology that's coming out, and some of the different reactors that they've come up with as far as energy. I'm trying to think of the one I'm thinking of, the that doesn't produce any radioactivity. But they'll come up with something. In the meantime, if you're not doing oil, then you're not energy independent. You're dependent on foreign oil, and then that's a problem for national security.
Right.
So, all right. What else have we got?
Social Security and Medicare. No direct cuts to Social Security or Medicare, but the increased deficit may trigger $500 billion in Medicare cuts by 2034 under the Pay-as-You-Go Act. Social Security and Medicare insolvency is estimated to accelerate to 2032. But the thing is, again, if we're cutting those who should not be receiving it in the first place,
Right. That's not.
that's what a lot of the cuts are. And that's not really cutting it. It's just ensuring. How long did we hear, Social Security is not even going to be there by the time you get there because it's going to be drained and empty.
Insolvent.
And so if we're making these types of cuts to it to make sure that those who actually paid into it, those who actually qualify, are the ones receiving it, these are good cuts.
It's not really even cutting. It's actually.
It's fixing.
It's enforcing existing law.
Yeah.
I guess you got to put a period on the end of that in order to
Right.
get it done. So, House passage, Senate passage. I don't think we need to do all that. It's going back.
Well, the only thing was that Byrd rule was that came into play with the transgender stuff. And so with the healthcare stuff, they wanted to cut transgender surgeries and gender affirming care. And we did do a Grok search on that.
Search on it,
And basically what happened was they used that Byrd Act. They would have it included. I deep dove into it after we talked. And they would have to have 70 out of 100 of the senators vote to go ahead and include that. Right. And everybody on the left... Right. And that's why sometimes the left is more successful, because they will find something that seems absolutely outrageous, but they will stand together on it so that they stand together on everything else. And we have morals and ethics, and we will fight each other.
They'll probably unwind this at some point.
Right. So this is going to go back to they have an executive order on it. And then they have other stuff coming through in, actual bills to make a reform on this and make it to where you can no longer use federal funds to mutilate children. And if you want to change your gender and you're an adult, you can do so by paying for it yourself.
I don't understand why this is even controversial. It seems like just absolute basic common sense. You don't brainwash children into wanting to be something else and then giving them the ability to change it when they're under 18 and their brains haven't even developed enough to have a drink legally. The whole transgender thing is ridiculous. I don't care if you're transgender. I don't care what you want to do. If you're an adult, do whatever you want. Leave me alone. Don't educate my kids. Get rid of Drag Queen Story Hour, because you're invading on your invasion into my rights is what is the issue, and that is what the problem is here. And they don't care if they're circumventing your rights as long as they get what they want.
Right.
That's the problem. This will clear up with time, I think, as we start maybe righting the ship and going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it has to. But I mean, you see the memes. You're telling me that a race car with a Marlboro logo on it is telling me I need to smoke cigarettes and that's bad for me, so we're going to remove it. But Drag Queen Story Hour's okay?
Yeah.
Like, make it make sense.
It's so stupid. So I think
that's it.
I think we covered all the ground that we wanted to cover, and then some, as usual. So I guess we'll be back on Friday and go from there. And government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force, and force like fire is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. And we'll see you guys on the flip.
Good day. Welcome to this week's Town Hall News Brief. I'm Phoebe Johnson, your host, to provide the latest local updates. Lightning storms have sparked multiple wildfires in the Shasta Trinity National Forest, including the Horse Fire, which has grown to nearly 400 acres near Shasta Lake. CAL FIRE and the U.S. Forest Service are actively combating the blazes, with air tankers dropping flame retardant to contain the spread. The fires, fueled by dry conditions and thunderstorms, pose a significant threat to the region's ecosystem and nearby communities. Authorities urge residents to stay vigilant and avoid activities that could ignite additional fires as the situation remains critical amid ongoing heat and unpredictable weather patterns. Meanwhile, a positive step for mental health support has emerged. California's Senate Bill 1063, effective July 1st, mandates that public and private schools for grades 7 through 12 print the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline number on student ID cards. This initiative aims to make mental health resources more accessible, reduce stigma, and encourage meaningful conversations. Shasta County's You Matter Shasta program supports this effort with resources and training for schools. The law is a proactive measure to ensure students have immediate access to trained counselors during crises, fostering a supportive environment. In a stark reminder of the consequences of road rage, a Reading man has pleaded guilty to charges stemming from a fatal crash in Anderson. The incident, driven by aggressive driving, claimed a life and left the community shaken. The defendant faces sentencing, with prosecutors pushing for accountability to deter similar tragedies. This case highlights the dangers of road rage, prompting local authorities to call for increased awareness and calmer driving behaviors to ensure public safety. The guilty plea brings some closure, but underscores the need for ongoing education on road safety. On a brighter note, Reading's urgent care clinic has been saved from closure despite a looming doctor shortage. Community efforts, including partnerships with local healthcare providers and recruitment initiatives, ensured the facility's continued operation. This victory preserves critical access to timely medical care for residents, alleviating pressure on emergency services. The clinic's survival reflects the community's resilience and commitment to healthcare access, offering hope for sustainable solutions to the region's medical staffing challenges. Patients and staff alike celebrate this uplifting outcome, ensuring Reading remains supported during health crises. Find more local stories by Shasta Lake Town Hall at Town Hall Brief on Linktree.com. From all of us at Town Hall Brief, thanks for listening.
I want to take the time to thank the sponsors that help keep our lights on and our partnership with 22 Salute Coffee. They have absolutely amazing coffee. Their bourbon is absolutely the best bourbon I've ever had. It helps keep the lights on here. If you go to Mountaintop Media and purchase, you save 10%, and the rest of the money goes towards helping first responders and veteran suicide prevention. So you're supporting a good cause, you're getting a good product, and you're helping us keep the lights on here, which we have no outside funding, no government funding, no NGO funding, so it really helps us. Jefferson State Diesel, absolutely the best place to take your diesel in. If you have a vehicle with a diesel, they're absolutely the best. Both owners are on site. They support the community. They always are supporting patriots. And there's absolutely nowhere else I would go to take my truck to get worked on and trust them to do a good job and never scam somebody. And they help us keep the lights on here. They're our number one first sponsor that really stepped up to the plate. I also want to take the time to give a shout out to Taylor Motors. They are an amazing family. If I was going to go and buy a new vehicle, absolutely I would go nowhere else other than Taylor Motors. And they also sell used vehicles. So and if you buy that, it's new to you. And they are actually they're a top tier sponsor. They really stepped up to the plate. They're always going to fundraisers to support the right people. They're huge supporters of the right people in the community, and they have a lot of integrity, and the family's great. Also, Taylor Collision Center. Hopefully I don't get any accidents, or somebody just actually swiped my wife's vehicle the other day in the parking lot, and they just drove off. And it was a little ding. So I'm not necessarily, I don't know if we're going to take that in, but hopefully nobody bangs my truck up or her vehicle to where we have to take it in there. But if I did, I would absolutely take it to Taylor Collision Center. They have a lot of integrity, very good, honest people, and there's nowhere else I would take my vehicle. Thank you for watching, and support the other people in the community that support us.